Hi everybody. This is the third video in terms, not the third video I've ever made, but the third video in terms of fall 2020 health class and the topics that we're learning about in the very first unit called wellness. And if you looked at them in order, or if you are reviewing them based on topics in class in order, we started out the wellness unit up here. We started out with this word Pisces, P-I-S-E-S, sort of an acronym that goes and makes it so that you know the five main categories of wellness, which physical, intellectual, social, emotional, and spiritual. And we make them into, or Dr. Tom Evil actually was one of my professors at Temple University back in the mid to late 90s. I graduated from there in class of 1997. He actually gave me this term. And as you look it up, it's in a wellness wheel. Now, I designed this one using a graphics program, but you can find other wellness wheels from Clarion University, Northwest Missouri State, Princeton here. You can also click here to see a Google image search of a bunch of different wellness wheels, and some of them have other areas as well, such as occupational health and educational health and environmental health and economic health. But we focus on physical, intellectual, social, emotional, and spiritual section. So we looked at this slideshow and we stopped at the spiritual section, said that I would do that on another video. So here it is. Here's the other video. On that day, I mentioned to you that spiritual health meant values, morals, virtues, and beliefs. So a lot of people, they see the word spiritual and they immediately think that it is some sort of religion or some sort of sensation or something like that. And that's not what it is. Spiritual, you can absolutely change the word to ethical, or you can change the word to character health. But all the wellness wheels on Google and at all the universities, they use this term spiritual. So so we can say it's like a secular version of the word spiritual. So there you go. It's about values, morals, virtues, and beliefs. And it's just what's right and wrong in different situations. That's what it means. What's right and wrong in different situations. Now, as you saw in the previous video, all five of the terms, physical, intellectual, social, emotional, and spiritual, all five of the categories, they all fit into a neat little wheel that spins, and there's no top and there's no bottom. This is arguably the most dangerous. I didn't say most important. It's arguably the most dangerous. And why is it the most dangerous? Because in the other areas, if you are unhealthy physically, if you're unhealthy intellectually, if you're unhealthy socially, if you're unhealthy emotionally, you will hurt other people by them feeling bad for you, by them feeling like you need a lot of help. You will make them sad with different things. You could hurt them in terms of how they want you to have certain things, but ultimately you're hurting yourself. If you're not physically healthy, it's your body. If you're not intellectually healthy, it's your mind. If you're not socially healthy, you're the one that's going to have problems being able to get along with people. If you're not emotionally healthy, then it's you that has to deal with the coping mechanisms and stress management and whatever else it is that needs to make you healthy. But with spiritual health, if you don't know what's right and wrong, then that could have consequences. So where do we learn it from? So like I just said, I just used the word learn but accidentally. And how do you know what's right and wrong? Is it an internal sense? Is it a moral compass? Is it that conscience that's inside of us? But no, it's learned. And I already said it accidentally, but it's learned. And it's learned through your influences and your personal experiences, and you learn it both directly and indirectly. So recall again the wellness wheel. Influences, if you want to define them, although most of you know what they are already, are people, places, things, or events that we learn from either directly or indirectly. All of our influences are the result of observing someone else do or say something, or personal experiences, no matter the source. It doesn't matter where it's from. I'm not talking about good influences versus bad influences. I'm talking influences. You learn something from someone, how to be, how to act, what's right in a different situation. So what are your most common influences? If you didn't do this in class and you're looking at it for the very first time because you were absent or something, pause the video, time yourself for 3 minutes or so to discuss with someone. And if no one's there, if you're by yourself, then just make a list of what you think your most common influences are. Where or who do you learn the most from? All right, you should be back now after pausing that for 3 minutes. Obviously, I didn't pause for 3 minutes, but here we go. Most common influences, ages 12 to 17. There's an article on the website for this. So here we go. Number 1, take a guess. Anybody know? Social media community. Yeah. So the article surveyed a bunch of young people between the ages of 12 and 17, middle school and high school age young people, and the number one source that they learned things from were social media. So it doesn't matter whether it's YouTube, like you're watching this on right now, or Instagram, or Snapchat, or TikTok, or something else. You know, some of you still look at Facebook, even though it's more for your 30 and 40-year-olds and older, but you know, some of you still look at that too. But social media accounts, and there's new ones every year that become super popular, and then that's the one that you look at the most. Side note, a different survey that surveyed college kids, they said that the number one source of their news was Twitter. So a social media account, again, and it's a lot of opinions that can go on there as opposed to fact, and that's the number one influence of a young person's life. The community and environment in which you live ends up being number 2. So that could be the neighborhood or the school or the particular work that you have, but the community and environment in which you live teaches you how to think about different things. Your friends or your peer group, we talk about peer pressure all the time and how important peer pressure is. Well, if you combine peer pressure with the social media community, then it's really big. But if you keep it as a separate category, it's 3. So there you go. It's down to number 3. Entertainers come in at 4th, includes musicians, actors, athletes, and internet personalities. There's actually a whole category of internet personalities that are just called influencers. I'm an influencer. And there you go. They talk, they make trends. They make things happen. Sometimes it's for the good, sometimes it's not. So number 5 comes down to pop culture. So what's popular in the moment? What's the top songs? What's the top dance creates? What's the top clothes to wear? What's the top styles? What's the top things to do? What's the top things to say? What kind of challenge am I going to do next on social media? Going back to social media again. So those are the top 5 influences. Want to take a guess what they are prior to age 12? Top 5 influences are parents, siblings, television, friends, the community and environment in which you live in. I just have a question for you to think about, and the parents will probably appreciate this. Some of you, your parents are still going to be in your top 5 when you make your list. Some of you, your parents aren't in your top 5. Your top 5 is pretty close to this, more than likely. Where'd they go? They're still there. They're still the same people you know. Some people would argue that, do you think you know more than them? They're older. They're more experienced. So it's an interesting thought for you to have. Some of us, we purposely don't pay attention to our parents. I know that I didn't. I didn't think that she knew what she was talking about, my mom raising me sometimes. But looking back, when I got a little bit older, I'm like, oh yeah, she knew. So I'm not coming down on you. I'm not acting like the old guy. I'm not looking at like the parent. I mean, I am a little bit, but I'm not trying to make you feel bad. But just look at your list again that you made for yourself and just think about, should I have my parents in there? Because prior to age 12, you relied on them a lot to be an influencer for you. So just think about that. There are other people that will put other things in their top 5 that are not on this list. And if you have something that's totally different in your top 5, then shoot me an email. If you're not one of my students, then put a comment on the video and maybe I'll see it, maybe I won't. But if you're one of my students, shoot me an email or give me a private message on the Google Classroom and tell me who's in your top 5 or what's in your top 5 that's not on this research list, because I'd be really interested to hear what they are. So here you go. Influences are the starting point for what we believe and eventually all behaviors. So this is a model that lets you be able to understand it. We start off with this circle right here, and that represents your influences. Learn from birth, from a variety of sources: good influences, bad influences, neutral influences, who and where and what you learned from. Okay, now, after you get that, you have this next circle here, and that is your worldview. Now, this is a neutral video. I am not taking a political side. I am not taking a religious side. I am not taking a cultural side. I am not taking a insert your demographic here side. I don't care what your worldview is. It's for you to come up with. What I care about is, are you following this model? You have influences. They create a worldview. That worldview causes you to have beliefs. How things should be, what is right and wrong. This is how I think the world should work. This is how I think society should be. This is how I think X, Y, and Z should be. These are my beliefs. If you look up the definition for the word belief, it's that which I hold to be true. After the beliefs, you get values. What is important to me? And then you get behaviors and actions. And that's where we get into the idea of why it could be the most dangerous. Your behaviors and your actions are based on your beliefs and values. So this is for a model for you to draw for the first time in your notes. This is what the graphic looks like on the website and the poster in the health room. And this is what it comes down to. You have these influences and personal experiences that create for you the worldview. That worldview gives you beliefs. That beliefs gives what you hold to be true. Those beliefs cause you to have values, what's important to me. And those values give you your behaviors. And your behaviors, obviously, are actions. Internal actions or external actions. Internal actions are decisions that you consciously make. External actions are doing things about those decisions that you consciously make. Because of your actions, you have consequences. Those consequences are the results of your actions. Because of those consequences, you could have a positive outcome or a negative outcome. You could have something good happens in your life and the people around you, or you can have something not so good. Okay? Based on whether your consequences and outcomes, you could change the word consequences to outcomes if you want to, because consequences always sounds bad. But if you have a positive or negative consequence or outcome, that leads you on to an increase or decrease of your relationships. It makes your relationships stronger or it breaks them apart. The reason why this is the most dangerous is a lot of times, most of the time, throughout history, when we look at actions that people have taken, and I'm not naming specific people, and I'm not naming specific groups, and I'm not naming specific wars or things, but people take actions. They do so because what they think they're doing is right. Their beliefs make it seem like what they're doing is right. So it's important to them, and they act on it. And by acting on it, it could really help society, or it could really hurt society. Literally, it could bring war, or it could bring peace. And that's why the spiritual section, or the character section, or the ethical section could be the most dangerous, even though it's not the most important, because they're all equally as important. Because your worldview, your beliefs, your values, they all end up causing behaviors, and those behaviors have actions, consequences, positive or negative result, and that increases or decreases relationships. Thank you for tuning in. We'll see you in the next classes.